Hi, this is Dave from Gyra with today's thought for the week. We're in the middle of a series on the fruit of the Spirit, but today I'd like to move away from that subject and deal with another word that's just been on my mind all week, and that is grace. What sort of things really make your blood boil? People who are rude? Drivers pulling out on you? Injustice? Bullying? Your neighbour putting their bin across your driveway so you can't get out? There's lots of things that really get us riled, aren't there? And how do we react to these things? However we react is going to make a difference to us and the other person, isn't it? Last Saturday, just after it had stopped raining, I went out to do a little bit of work on our camper van parked in our drive. I'd replaced the rubber wind deflector that had been torn off a few months ago by the baboons when we went to Knowsley Safari Park. I was only cleaning the residue away, so I just popped out without anything on my feet. I climbed up onto the driver's side wheel so I could remove some of the sealant from the windscreen, and when I stepped down onto the wet driveway, my foot slipped slightly. I didn't overbalance and I just assumed I'd trodden on a wet leaf. Job done, I walked back into the house and realised I was still slipping. I looked down and realised I'd stepped in some dog muck and had now trodden it all through the house. I wasn't happy, and I immediately began to think of all the things I'd like to do to the person who hadn't cleaned up after their dog. Of course, in reality, I had no idea who it was, so I just cleaned my foot and the house and washed the dog muck away from our drive. What if I did know who it was, though? What would my options have been? And how on earth does all this relate to grace? Well, as I see it, I had a number of options, or I would have had a number of options. If I'd seen it happening, I could have picked it up in my rubber gloves and thrown it as the irresponsible owner, giving a verbal tirade with no expletives deleted. That would have been revenge. I could have reported the owner to the authorities and seen them fined. That would have been justice. I could have said nothing about it, just picked it up and put it in our bin and got on with my day. That would have been mercy. I could have put a bowl of water out for the dog and gone outside to chat in a friendly manner with the owner of the dog, never making any mention of the dog fouling incident. That would have been grace. Which one of these is likely to result in the most positive outcome, do you think? Well, revenge by throwing it at the owner isn't going to end well, is it? It would have resulted in a lifelong animosity between us that might result in revenge attack after revenge attack and probably prosecution at some stage. Justice being served by reporting it to the authorities would have probably resulted in frostiness but solved the problem. Showing mercy by just putting it in the bin will avoid any animosity, but the problem might persist, which leaves us with grace, the dog bowl and the friendly conversation. Likely result? Problem solved and friendship made, probably. Makes you think, doesn't it? I want to be careful how I move on from here, because justice is extremely important and so are the rights of the individual. But often we need to make a judgment call between when justice needs to be seen to be done and when grace can be the best outcome of all. It's love demonstrated through grace that really makes Christianity tick. God, through Jesus, not only forgives us for the things we've done wrong, he gives us everlasting and meaningful gifts too. This grace, modelled by Jesus, is how we're all supposed to behave. It's a shame we seem to have lost our way with it, really, isn't it? To demonstrate grace builds friendships and communities. To demand revenge or justice can often lead to fractures in relationships and communities. I think grace requires courage for us to recognise we have been wronged, weighed up our options, and chosen to respond in a way which most likely leads to a positive conclusion requires courage, an abandonment of pride, and above all, grace. However much courage is required for us to choose grace, I want to encourage us to think about responding in grace for our own sake, so that we don't feel bitter and angry anymore, for the sake of the relationship between us and the person who's offended us, and for the sake of our community. It has a community cohesion feel to it, doesn't it, when we start acting in grace towards one another. Thank you.